Hello and welcome back to this Orbiter 2016 video series. This is Tex and this is part 7 of our flight from the Earth to Mars. As you can see, we're clearly on the surface of Mars. We've made it to Olympus base in the previous part. So we've just landed. We're literally right where we left off. The crew immediately came out and greeted us. They were certainly happy to see us, but they had some news. Apparently they received an odd signal from an abandoned research station on the surface of Phobos. So we're going to immediately fuel up our XR2 here and conduct a very quick flight out to Phobos and just take a look at what's going on at this abandoned research station. So let's jump right in. Again, we're right where we left off, but we're not going to need everything that we have in the cargo bay. Let's go ahead and get rid of this extra LOX container. This will be a pretty short flight. I'm also going to reset the mission elapsed time here.
Mission elapsed.
Okay.
Time reset.
Let's open up this burn time MFT and let's put the extra 804 kilograms of RCS whenever that's full. And based on previous experience, we're going to need at least about 6,000 kilometers per second probably to get out to Phobos to be safe. So I'm just going to fill us up until we have around that in delta velocity. We'll also go ahead and put about 7 days of LOX in. That's probably going to be too much, but we'll just play it safe. We have plenty of supplies, so there's no sense in cutting things that close. Alright, so we're going to start filling up the main tank. Let's go ahead and fill the APU tank up a bit more. And let's do LOX at the same time. We'll watch LOX. It's going to fill pretty quickly. Okay, there's 7 days of LOX. Let's close the LOX hatch. It's probably enough APU fuel. Turn that off. And let's time accelerate. We'll get RCS full here.
RCS fuel tanks.
Okay, and we're over our target there. It's okay, we'll just go with that. We're going to close the fuel hatch. Let me go ahead and put this extra RCS over here in the main tank. We'll keep about 30% of RCS. It's close enough. Alright, now let's readjust this. So we have 226.3 kilograms of RCS fuel. So that gives us a total of almost 6,400 kilometers per second. That should be more than enough to get to Phobos. It's probably going to be too much. But for this flight, I'm just going to do a very quick flight out there. I'm not going to really concern myself with tracking our fuel usage and all that. Alright, so without further ado, we need to get off the ground. However, our latitude at Olympus base here is not ideal for aligning our orbital plane with Phobos. So that means we're going to have to do an off-plane transfer, which is going to be a little bit more expensive than if we just were able to align our orbital plane at the same time during the launch, but not too big of a deal. So I'm just going to launch into a due east launch heading. So let's zero out everything here from previously. Alright, let's go ahead and turn on the APU. Surface HUD up. AF control on. Rotation on. Surface HUD on. We need to stow the radiator. External cooling off. Strobe lights on. Beacon on. And we also need to open the hover doors. Okay, that'll work. Okay, so we're ready to go. Let's go ahead and kick up our hover engines.
Wheels up.
Wheels are up.
Gear up.
Let's raise the gear. Attitude hold autopilot on. Let's rotate
Gear
over
up
to
and
90 degrees. Okay. Main power up. Bring the hover engine down. And let's just pitch up a little bit. It's not like Earth. We don't have to go up to 40 degrees.
Mach 1.
Close the hover doors there. Alright, so the atmosphere is so thin that we're really not going to have a heating problem here. We're just going to do a gradual pitch up here. And you can see us climbing away from Olympus base back there.
Mach 4. Information.
Okay, let's open the orbit MFD over here.
Mach 5.
So it's going to be super easy to get into orbit here at Mars. There's just very minimal atmosphere, and Mars is considerably smaller than Earth. So orbital velocity is, I think it's just over 3,000 meters per second. So we're already like almost half of orbital velocity here, which is really super cool. It's very effortless just to get into orbit here. You see, we're still in the atmosphere, but again, I mean, it's so thin, and that's just so awesome. Olympus right there. I'm just absolutely loving the terrain feature in Orbiter 2016. And take a peek around. All right, so we're almost in orbit. Got a little heat on the vehicle. I don't know. I noticed in Orbiter 2016, it seems like we get plasma on the vehicle at much lower temperatures. I don't think we should have plasma on the vehicle at this temperature, but I don't know. Alright, so what I'm going to do is actually raise our orbit altitude pretty high, because if we target Phobos for a moment, you can see its orbit altitude is very high above Mars. So I'm just going to keep burning until we get our altitude maybe halfway out there, because we're going to have to raise it up anyways. And if we raise our altitude up higher, it'll cost us less to do a plane change burn. Alright, so our apoapsis is well above the surface of Mars. Over here, we can see it climbing here. We'll just keep burning a bit longer here. I'll maybe do about halfway. I mean, really, it doesn't... I'm not aiming for anything particular. Okay, so engine shut down. Let's deploy the radiator. There's really no heat on the vehicle anymore. And there you go. You can see us climbing away with Olympus there in the background. That's just really awesome. Look how high that thing is. I mean, it literally just about sticks up into space. Mars atmosphere is so thin. Okay, radiators deployed. Let's turn off attitude hold. AF control can go off. And our APU can be turned off. Let me hop over here, zero out this trim. Alright, so what we're going to do is an off-plane transfer, and we're going to use TransX to do that, but let me just very quickly open a line plane so we can take a look at face prograde. We'll go to the orbit HUD. So you can see we're just over 12 degrees off our relative inclination compared to Phobos. So we'd be looking at about 21 seconds of burn time at the descending node over here compared to the ascending node. But I'm not going to mess with that. See, if we do an off-plane transfer, we can just do it all at one time. So we're going to use TransX for that. So let me go and open TransX. Do that on both sides. Let's select Phobos, and let me change the view to graph projection, focus. There we go. And we're going to turn on maneuver mode, and let's start setting up a maneuver. Alright, so we know we're going to have to raise our orbit higher than it already is. And we know we're going to have to adjust the date into the future somewhat, because we're not going to do the burn like literally right now. Well, I mean, we could, but we'll find out in a minute. But more importantly, we know we're going to have to do a lot of plane change. So let's go ahead and put some of that in and see which direction lowers that. Okay, so that's working. But I don't want my orbit to go quite so high. So let's adjust that. Let's try the date. Okay, moving the date is working. Nope, to that point. So we're going to play with the variables for a minute here. Let's see. Okay, so that's lowering it. But now we're not going high enough in our altitude there. So let's raise that up a little bit. I wonder though, let me try plane change, a little bit more plane change. Okay, so we're gonna have to add some prograde in. Let's go back over plane change. Looks like maybe the date. Prograde. Plane change. Okay, so let's try the date again. That's getting a little better. Plane change. Let's see what outward does. Let's try a little bit of outward. Okay, that's working. Bring it a little closer with outward, and then let's try date. And we're clearly going to need more prograde. Okay, we're getting closer. Obviously, with Phobos being so small, we do need to be pretty accurate with our plan here. It's getting much better. Let's see where we're going to be doing the burn. The thing is we want to make sure that because we'll have to raise our periapsis if we get up to no target. Alright, so you can see we're here. Our periapsis is below the surface. So if we get up to apoapsis and we don't do the burn before we reach apoapsis, we'll have to do a small burn to raise our periapsis. However, if we can do our burn to Phobos anywhere between where we are now and apoapsis, we won't have to worry about that. And I think we'd be doing the burn right here, so that would work. All right, let me keep playing with the variables. Let's go back to trans-x. I need to. Okay, that's working. Oh, you know what? Let me go to plane first. Let's bring that back around. Try a little bit more outward. Okay, now we're getting really close. Let's go back to plane. How much outward am we doing? Okay, that's not too bad. Okay, let's go prograde. There we go. I wonder if I can do that with date. Let me try the date instead of putting in that much prograde. Let's go to the date. I can. Okay, cool. Alright, that got us close. Now I believe we can probably fine-tune this with outward and plane. No. Let's get that as low as it'll go. Looks like it's going to be right in there. And then outward. Plane. Almost there. Let's try date. Okay, that's not really helping any. A little bit of prograde maybe. There we go. Okay, so that is certainly close enough, but we are 2,000 seconds away from the burn. The burn is going to occur here, it looks like. So we need to time accelerate until we get almost to the burn, and then we'll do an update because the predictions will have changed. So let's go ahead and time accelerate. So you can see we'll watch the time to the burn count down here. We'll get maybe 200 seconds out from the burn and do an update and see how the predictions have changed. I'm sure it'll have us missing Phobos by then. Okay, that's close enough. Okay, yep, now we're missing Phobos by 27 kilometers. So let's adjust, I believe, let's leave the date alone. Let's see if we can get that with the other variables. There we go, outward. So outward slipped off quite a bit. And then let's try a little bit of the plane change. Nope. So let's go back to prograde. There we go. That has us pretty much spot on. That will work. Alright, so 150 seconds out from the burn. We're looking at about 768 meters per second. So we're good to go. Let me go ahead and rotate the vessel so we're pointed in the right direction. And we'll turn on... God, it takes so many clicks to get over there. Auto center. There it is. Alright. I'll just like to orient it myself initially, bring that X into the center, and then I'll turn on auto center. Okay, let's turn that on. So we're just over 100 seconds from the burn. Let me let it get all centered here before I try and time accelerate. We can use burn time MFD for this too. We're going to be looking at 768.1 in delta V. So we have tons of delta velocity. We're not worried about that at all. Of course, when we get there, you can see, let's target Phobos again. Alright, so what we're going to end up doing is, of course, raising our orbit altitude on one side so that we get out to Phobos, and then once we get there, we're going to have to pretty much circularize the orbit so that our orbit matches that of Phobos. So we'll of course need fuel to do that. But once that's done, we'll just need very minimal fuel for landing on Phobos. Its gravity is so low, we're just going to use translation thrusters. So, all right, I guess I can leave orbit open over there and watch that happen as we as the burn. Oh, you know what? Let me go to burn time first. All right. Alright, I'm going to time accelerate until we get to the burn. Alright, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, burn. Alright, so that will burn exactly the delta V we put in. And when it's done burning, we need to make sure to turn off the auto center immediately. And we'll clean it up with a little translation, a little RCS, linear RCS. Okay, the burn's almost done. There we go, the burn is done.
Translation.
Okay, linear RCS. Now you can see what's happened with the orbit, so we've raised it over there. Alright, let's just bring our delta V down. Okay, I guess I'm not really going to mess with that much more. It's going to be perturbed anyways. So let's go over here and let's turn maneuver mode off. Okay, so we'll see how good our plan was. Let's go ahead and very carefully time accelerate. Let's take a quick look outside. So there's Mars below us. And let's go ahead and time accelerate. You can see Phobos over here and we're here, so we're going to intercept right around here. And our closest approach is within reason, so I don't think we're really going to have to do any mid-course correction. We should be able to get there with just the single burn. It's actually decreasing, so that's a good thing. Essentially right now, with this closest approach, we're going to hit Phobos. In fact, you can see it right there. So while we're coasting over there, let me go ahead and let's see, we want to select the vessel for the research station. So its transponder frequency is 124. let's go ahead and program that in. Okay, so that's done. Let's go over here. Alright. Let's also go ahead and reference Phobos here, and that way we can do the HUD. Alright.
Rotation.
Just orient ourselves so we're sort of facing Phobos. Yeah, we're gonna hit Phobos dead smack on at the moment, which is fine. We will, of course, do a braking maneuver just before we get there. Alright, let's go ahead and hop over here and let's open our retro doors. We will not need the hover doors. Again, Phobos gravity is so low, we're just going to use RCS. Okay. I believe everything else looks fine. Yep, we're good to go. Let me put a little bit of the RCS in the main tank. I don't know how much it's actually going to take for retro engines. Probably not that much, but that'll work. Okay. I'll stay in this cockpit view. You can see a little bit more there. Alright, so let me time accelerate again. We're going to coast right over here to Phobos. It's getting pretty large. You can see our velocity vector is taking us dead smack right into Phobos there. Alright, now let's do some calculations and figure out how long it's going to take us to brake. Essentially, when I say a brake, of course, what I mean is we're going to have to circularize our orbit so that it matches Phobos. But let's go ahead and open the docking MFD, because that's going to be actually more useful for us. Because the research station, it's a Prelude, Dan's Prelude 3 base. It's technically considered a vessel and orbiter, so we can use the docking MFD instead of the VTOL. But we're looking at our closure velocity. Let's open burn time MFD. So it's 409. It's ticking up. So let's call it 410. So if we want to cancel out that closure velocity of 410 meters per second, we need to do the burn using retro engines when we're 14 kilometers away. So we'll probably do it roughly around 15 kilometers or so. We'll get a little bit close. We're still 153 kilometers, so we have some time. All right, let's go ahead and orient the vessel so that we're facing that velocity vector. So when we fire our retro engines, we cancel out that closure velocity. So the base is actually right here inside this box. You can see it. Our velocity vector is taking us just ahead of the base. I could try to translate down, but with this much velocity, I don't know how quickly it will actually move. Let's try it. It's moving slowly, so that's working. So we'll bring our velocity vector right in the center of this box, so we're essentially heading right at the base. And we have plenty of fuel, so that's fine. Okay, that will work. Alright, so let's monitor this. Our closure velocity is now 410, and we're calculating how much time to cancel out 410. It's 410.3. So, like I said, roughly when we're about 15 kilometers out. So when the distance here says 15 kilometers, that's when we're going to start burning with our retro engines. So let's time accelerate. It might look just a little bit freaky as we get this close to Phobos. with this velocity, but we're going to trust that burn time is telling us the correct distance to slow down. I'm going to hop outside and take a quick look, and you can actually see the base right there on the surface. And how cool is that? And this is normal time speed. You can see how quickly we're closing on Phobos at the moment. Where is Mars? Take a quick look around. It must be underneath of us. Oh, there it is right there. Okay. Alright, let's pay attention because we are approaching our breaking point.
Rotation.
Let's point our nose right at that velocity vector there. Okay, so it's now 410.5. Just for accuracy, we'll put in 410.5, and we're looking at a distance of 14 kilometers in order to cancel out that closure velocity. So we'll, again, at 15, we'll go ahead and fire the engines. So that is approaching. Actually, you know what? I want to do it a little bit earlier. Let's go ahead and fire it now. That way we have time to maneuver over to the base. Alright, so we are braking. And Phobos is getting quite large very quickly. Our retro engines are doing their thing, and hopefully if all goes well, we will slow down in time before we actually hit the surface of Phobos. Because that rock is getting very big. And if we take a look at the orbit MFD, you can see. Let's reference Mars. You can see how we're circularizing our orbit with Phobos. There you go. So we're looking good. Closure velocity is coming down.
4,000.
Okay, now let's translate over here. We still want to close, obviously. Well, let's bring our velocity vector so it's taking us over toward the base. Let's rotate around so that we're sort of facing right side up, if you will. Everything is, it's like the base is upside down on the rock right now, but it can be disorienting actually. And you'll notice that actually because of Orbiter 2016 with the terrain and everything now, I couldn't get the base to actually sit totally flat on the surface without having this, it's almost like a landslide or something. It's like the surface of Phobos is overtaking the base. That was really the best that I could do and have it so that the XR2 could land on the surface of the base there. And even that is not ideal because the landing gear is going to be a little bit underneath the surface of the base. But that was unfortunately the best that I could do. Everything else I tried, when you put the base so that it's not, you know, looks like it's not underneath the surface of Phobos, when you land the Delta glider on it, it's like underneath of the base because it's actually sitting on the surface of Phobos. So anyway, you know, there's some work that has to be done there, but it works. So we're gonna just coast in here. Let me time accelerate.
2,000. 2,000. You are cleared to land. Translation.
Let me translate a little bit more over here, so we're not coming in right on top of the base.
1,900. 1,000.
Let's go ahead and put our gear down as well.
800.
And because it is a vessel, she's going to start going crazy if we don't open our nose cone, which seems messed up, but it is considered a vessel and orbiter, so if I don't open the nose cone, she's going to keep saying, warning, nose cone is closed, warning, nose cone is closed, and she won't stop. So instead of deleting that audio file, I'll just go ahead and open the nose cone.
600.
So our gear is down. We're coming in like nose down toward Phobos so we can see it, and then I'll level off as we get just above the surface. Okay, the gear nose cone is open, gears down. Let's turn off the APU. Let's begin braking a bit.
500. 400. Rotation. 'Translation.
Kind of funny coming in for a landing like this.
300.
Only on Phobos that has such low gravity can you do this and use your linear RCS, but it's a lot of fun. It's very challenging, or it's not actually not very challenging to land on Phobos, but I think the challenging part is just getting the vessel to stay on the surface of Phobos, honestly. So let's put the velocity vector right there in the center.
Rotation.
And we can go ahead and start rotating right side up here.
Translation.
Phobos gravity is so low you could almost just like hover right above the base. It's pretty wild.
Rotation. 200.
Guess I should open the surface MFD here.
$100.
Oops, wrong button.
$75. Translation.
Okay, we're almost on the ground.
50.
Alright, let me hit attitude hold, make sure everything's zeroed.
100.
Turn that on, so we'll keep the wings level for a second here. And I'm just going to look down.
30.
Okay, everything's level. Turn that off.
Rotation.
Let's rotate around so we're facing the base.
$20. Translation. 75.
Alright, very cool. We're coming down.
9. 8. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3.
Alright, so you're going to notice the landing gear is actually going to go underneath the
2.
surface before we technically touch down. I guess let me actually get in the center of the target, center of the landing pad here.
Two. 2.
Alright, see, there you go. So it's not ideal, but
1. Wheels down.
Alright, now the hard part is getting it to sit still. And I may not be able to do that actually. So we are here. Just getting the vessel to sit on the ground though is the hard part. You used to in Orbiter 2010, once you were down on the ground, you could very carefully time accelerate to like 10x, and then it would eventually settle down on the ground.
Rotation.
But I don't think that's gonna happen if I do that now. Let me try it. No, that's not working. Let me turn off APU. Let's try the scenario editor real quick. Let's see what happens if I do this.
APU
Oh.
auto start. Center of gravity shift.
That did not
online.
work.
Warning. Center of gravity shift offline.
Now let's go back to, there we go. Oh, that sucks. That's not the way I wanted the video to end at all. But, we're on the ground. I used the scenario editor, so we're actually on the ground and not moving now. I'm just adjusting us so that we're over the landing pad. That sucks. That's kind of, I guess, not ideal. That's not how I wanted to end the video. I was hoping that I could get the XR2 to settle down on the surface of Phobos, but when I put the base down in this spot, and you know, I put the XR2 here, and I just tried to, you know, lift off of the pad and then set it back down, I wasn't able to get it to sit down on the ground. But it is on the ground now. Unfortunately, I did have to use the scenario editor for that. But there you go. So we made it. There are obviously some glitches you can see, as I mentioned, but and the landing gear sort of underneath the surface of the pad, but it works for now. It's pretty cool. You can see Mars in the background there. So let's go ahead and shut things down, and I guess we're a little over 30 minutes, so I need to go ahead and end this video, but let's power everything down. Oh, let me take a look very quickly. How much delta velocity do we actually have left? So we have 69.5 in the RCS. So yeah, we had about 1,058 kilometers per second extra, so we had plenty of DV to get here. And our total flight time was at 2 hours and 47 minutes. So really nothing too bad. We got here really quickly. It really is a pretty quick flight from the surface of Mars. So let's go ahead and shut everything down. Let's see. I wonder if I close the nose cone, if she's going to start giving me notifications that's all. Let me see. Nope. Okay, cool. So I guess she just does it. She gives you the warning nose cone is closed when you're approaching a vessel, but now that we're already here, it's fine. Okay, let's turn on external cooling is working. Great. Alright, so that looks good. Everything is shut down, lights are off. We're here safely on Phobos. We're going to send the crew out to investigate and figure out what's going on with the old abandoned research station here. But thanks guys for watching. We need to start thinking about getting back to Earth. We're going to be here for a little while. It's probably going to be quite a while until we get another launch window to leave Mars and head to Earth. So we've got some time to toy around out here. But yeah, thanks for watching as always, and stay tuned for the next part. Take care, guys.